Well, a select but high-quality group is gathered here this morning for the start of the final day of BERA 2014. Well done for coming here. We have some awards to present, or to notify you of, and we have some people to thank, and we have some exciting prospects for 1 year's time, and we're going to get through that in the next few minutes. But just before we do, sort of congratulations to everybody for what has happened so far. I just met one of my dear friends from the University of Glasgow who said, "This is wonderful, I haven't been to a bad paper. Everything I've been to has been fantastic." So thank you very much for all the work that you've been putting into making this conference a success. We have a full program today as well, finishing with a very interesting keynote later on, just around the middle of the day. You've got the program, but lots of other paper sessions before then, so I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the program today. Now, it gives me great pleasure to at least announce and possibly present, if they're here, a few of the BERA awards. We did some of them in the opening ceremony, which seems like weeks ago now, but was only the day before yesterday. First of all, we have the Early Career Research Poster Award, and you hopefully saw all the posters, both for the Early Career and the main conference, and we're delighted to announce that the Early Career Research Award goes to Jamie Miller-Friedman for his, or her, I think, poster on repositioning the gender gap in STEM. Is Jamie here? We have a certificate for Jamie, which will be sent in due course. Secondly, the main conference poster award goes to Anna Mountford-Zimdars of King's College for her poster on conceptualizations of merit in university admission, a transatlantic comparison between the US and the UK. Very, actually quite amusing poster, as well as full of interest. If you've seen it, it's still there to go and have a look at. And I sense that Anna is here. Congratulations, Anna.
Thank you. Can I just use this as a plaque for the poster competition? I'm delighted that I've won it, but I think next year it would be great to be to an even greater competition.
Yes, so there's a challenge to all of you.
So a challenge to all of you. It's been really great fun to prepare the poster.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well done. All right. You know who's really in charge of conferences, don't you? It's the photographers. Thanks very much. Excellent. And then we go on to the two longer standing awards, I think I'm right in saying, or certainly in the second case. But the first case is actually quite a new award. Is this the first year or the second year of the Masters? I think it's the first year, very first year of the Masters Award. Because we decided that it was all very well recognising doctoral achievements, but there needs to be encouragement and stimulation for people at a slightly earlier stage of their research career. Is Kenichi here? No, but Kenichi Udagawa has won the Masters Award for, again, I'm sorry, I don't know the gender, his or her, creating a discursive equality, the legitimation of meritocracy in New Labour and Coalition Government Educational Discourse, 2007 to 2013. Which sounds like well worth a read. I haven't read it yet, but I look forward to getting an opportunity to do so. Congratulations to Kenichi. And then the Doctoral Thesis Award goes to Christy Kultz, here, no, from Goldsmiths College, a thesis entitled Structure Liberates, Making Compliant Consumable Bodies in a London Academy. Again, it sounds like a very interesting thesis. And as well as congratulating all the winners, and we'll do a round of applause in a moment, I'd also like to add a great vote of thanks to all the people involved in making those selections. A lot of reading, a lot of work involved, all done on a voluntary basis by BERA members under the auspices of our Membership and Engagement Committee. So will you join with me with a kind of ritual round of applause for all of our award winners? Thank you. Now I'd like to hand over to Felicity Wikeley, who chairs our conference committee.
As many of you know, from next year we will be organising the conference in-house with the appointment of our events manager, who many of you have already met, Marie, who's sitting down here, and I'll ask her to come up in a minute. But what we would like to do first, before I move on to talking about next year's conference, I would like to say a big thank you to InConference, who have been our conference organising association. We've been working with them since 2001. In fact, it was Colin Rogers and myself who were first involved at the conference at the University of Leeds. For those of you who are old enough to have been there, you will remember the green jackets of InConference, and they were very, very visible. So InConference have helped us move from green jackets to red t-shirts. They've helped us grow in confidence as an organisation, and to move from organising our conference programme when conference committee would spend 2 days with hundreds of pieces of papers with abstract on them, crawling all over the floor, trying to organise them into groups that would make proper sessions, to actually the online process, very ably sorted by our SIG conveners and SIG members that it is today. They taught us how to negotiate with university conference officers. And like all good researchers, it's a question of knowing the right questions to ask. And so they taught us to be, we would like to think, they've taught us to be a grown-up organisation. And perhaps at 40, with the extended working lives that we all have, perhaps 40 is the right time to become real grown-ups. So we're now able to do it for ourselves. So from next year, all the organisation will be done in-house, ably led by Marie and the office staff, and also my conference committee, some of whom you will see here today in their red t-shirts, others who have been around and work very hard. And I would like to say thank you to all of them. But I would like to, if Stacey from InConference is here, is she in there? Stacey, would you like to come forward? We'd like to make a presentation to you, to all your team. And we would like to say a personal big thank you, because I know for the last few years we have been your conference and you have helped us in various places, but we'd like you to Colin, who's this is for you.
Oh, they're beautiful. Thank you very much.
There's another bunch here to take away from Mum.
Oh, okay,
yes.
Perfect. She's
And the rest of your
can't
team,
be here.
yes.
No, it's really appreciated. Thank you.
I know you have to take them back on the plane,
That's
but
okay, I'll manage.
can we just stand in front of things? We'll have a photo. Another photo opportunity. Please thank all your team back in Edinburgh for us. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Deep breath. We're moving on to Belfast. Next year we will be in Belfast, and I'm going to, for the first few minutes of this presentation, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Joanne Hughes, who is from Queen's University Belfast, where the conference will be based, to excite you about the prospect of being in Belfast. We haven't been there since 1998, so we're looking forward to a really exciting conference. Joanne.
Thank you, Felicity. I'm actually delighted to have the opportunity to promote Queen's in Belfast as the venue and location for the conference next year. And when an organisation called Love Belfast found out that I was a member of BERA Council, they invited me to be an official ambassador for Belfast, which is great, not least because they give me free tickets for lots of things that I would otherwise have to pay for. As many of you will know, well, you'll all know that Belfast has experienced a kind of very troubled history. We've many problems that are yet to be resolved, but one of the most positive aspects of the peace process is that Belfast is now a very vibrant and cosmopolitan city, which is a very far cry from the one that I grew up in. Though I have to say I was always keen to extol the attractions of the city, and I can remember when I was 17 or 18 going on a hitchhiking trip around Europe, and everyone I met I invited to come to Belfast, not anticipating that all of these very earnest Europeans would actually turn up. And I can remember when the second set of bikers arrived at our house from Finland, my dad said, "This place is beginning to look a bit like the Isle of Man TT. You might want to think about all of these invites." Just to say a bit about Queen's, it's a traditional red brick university, very close to the city centre, within a 10-minute walk. As a conference site, it's actually quite a spread out campus, but most of the venues, rooms for the conference will be near the Lanyon building, which is this building you can see here. In terms of getting to Belfast, there are flights from all over the UK. What I would advise is that you book early to avail of the cheap flights. There's lots of cheap airlines that service Northern Ireland. We've got two airports, the international airport, which is half an hour from the city centre. There's a very good bus route from it. And then there's a city airport, which is right in the centre of Belfast, really. It's a 5-minute journey from the city centre. And there's a train link and taxis from the city airport. You can also get to Belfast by ferry. There's a ferry from Liverpool, an overnight ferry. And it might be an idea, that's obviously going to be very cheap, and they do lots of really good deals. It might be an idea to think about coming with a few others in a car to avail of some of the deals that they have, and to take an opportunity then to drive around Northern Ireland and to see some of the attractions on the North Antrim coast or South Down. In terms of tourist attractions, I'm going to say a bit about Belfast. It's divided into 7 quarters. And following Danny's talk yesterday, I want to make it clear that I'm aware that there are not 7 quarters in a whole. In this case, the term's used to describe areas of the city that are defined by a particular history or locale. So I'm just going to mention a couple of them. There's the Cathedral Quarter, which is named after St Anne's Cathedral, which is right in the city centre. It's an area that was previously a no-go area during the conflict years. Nothing happened there. Everywhere was closed at 11 o'clock at night. Well, before that, but the last bus left Belfast at 11 o'clock at night, but there was nothing happening there. It's now a really vibrant cultural and entertainment hub in the city centre, and well worth a visit. Titanic Quarter, this is an area that covers 75 hectares of land adjacent to Belfast Harbour, which is named after the Titanic, which you'll know was built in Belfast in 1912. And work is well underway to transform this area into one of the largest waterfront developments in Europe. There's now a Titanic visitor centre, Titanic walking tours, Titanic boat tours, Titanic Segway tours, and you can also visit the SS Nomadic, which is the only remaining White Star Line vessel that was used to ferry people to the Titanic, and was for a long time a restaurant in France. It's just recently been restored. It's interesting that a boat that sunk has captured the imagination of the world in the way that it has, but as we say in Belfast, she was all right when she left here. Also worth a visit in the Titanic Quarter is the Dock Honesty Box Cafe, a pop-up cafe, and I've got a kind of personal interest in this place. It's the first Honesty Box cafe in the world, and it's #1 on TripAdvisor out of more than 700 eateries in Belfast. And in many ways, I think the cafe represents all that's good about Belfast. It's run by the local churches, Catholic and Protestant, working together, although there's no in-your-face proselytising. It's a social enterprise that supports small-scale local businesses, and it's focused on building community in a shared space right in the city centre. It's attracted interest from all over the world. They have regular visitors from everywhere, and in fact, I think the Archbishop of Canterbury is going there next week to see what's happening. Also in the Titanic Quarter is the Paint Shed Studios. As you'll know, the Game of Thrones is currently filmed in Belfast, and you're able to take a tour of the Paint Shed Studios and of the other sites throughout Northern Ireland that are used for Game of Thrones filming. And in fact, I happened across one of those sites on my own road not so long ago. This little pink sign appeared with GOT on it, and I wondered for a long time what it meant, and eventually realised it directed people up to a disused quarry. And eventually I realised it was Game of Thrones, and so I took a drive up with my children, and we saw this disused quarry had been transformed into a medieval village. It was absolutely spectacular. So that tour is kind of well worth doing. Not far from the Titanic area is the home of C.S. Lewis that you can visit, and for those of you with a kind of music interest, Van Morrison's home's within walking distance of that. And if you want to come across him, there's a little barn just outside Belfast called the Crawford's Burn Inn that he drinks in regularly, and you can just go in and he's usually there. There's also the Gaeltacht Quarter, which is an area of West Belfast which promotes and encourages the use of Irish language. It's just outside the city centre. Belfast remains a very segregated city, with social housing for Catholics and Protestants demarcated by peace walls, which is a bit of a misnomer, and murals. And although I feel a bit conflicted about promoting these as tourist attractions, you can take the city's terror tours or mural tours, which will give you some insight into the political and social geography and history of Northern Ireland. There's also a market quarter. This is the last one that I mentioned. There's a market quarter, and St George's Market, which is one of the oldest in Europe, is well worth a visit. It's open on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and it's a great place to kind of meet. There's always music on, and great food and local produce. Just a word on outside of Belfast, you can visit the North Antrim coast or the Giant's Causeway, and if you take a visit up the North Antrim coast, you can take in the Bushmills Distillery, the Carrigareed Rope Bridge, and some spectacular, absolutely spectacular beaches. Derry or Londonderry or Stroke City, depending on your voting preference, is also worth a visit, and the Mourne Mountains, again with beautiful kind of coastline. I've only scratched the surface of what there is to see in Northern Ireland, but I hope I've given you some sense of the place and encouraged you to come. I think you'll have a unique experience. You'll experience a great welcome. As a city that seldom had visitors in the past, we're kind of thrilled that people want to come, and people will go out of their way for you. So, welcome to Belfast.
Thank you, Joanne. So, moving on to the excitement of the conference. I hope many of you will come to Belfast and perhaps stay at the conference first, or maybe afterwards when you've done all that exciting stuff. We are going to make a few changes to the conference. We've listened to feedback, we've listened to people's concerns about the need for networking spaces, for opportunities to talk to each other, all those sort of things, and we have listened to concerns about reviewing processes. We can't change everything all at once. We are a membership organisation, we rely on our members to be engaged and to feed through what they want, and that's what we're trying to do. But to give you what we have written, we are launching today our new website for Belfast 2015. It'll be an integral part of the BERA website from now on, so you'll be able to find it, and I'll show the beginning in a minute. But I just want to say, when you do look at abstract submissions, and they will be open from today, there will be some changes. There is instructions there. I know people think they know how to submit abstracts to a conference. Yes, of course you do. You fill in the form and you do the right things in the right boxes. But please, will you read the instructions first, because there are a few changes. Symposia, we're not asking for an abstract for every paper. We would like SIG conveners to encourage members to get together and put together symposia relating to their SIGs. So we trust SIG conveners to actually, and also anyone who wants to convene a non-SIG symposium to actually oversee the quality of the papers in that symposium. We will want a symposium abstract of 600 words, but not the individual papers. That's what it would be judged on, the symposium abstract. Early career research, as we have been listening to for the last few years, they are going to be integrated. We're not going to have a separate early career conference anymore, preceding the main conference. Early career researcher papers will be indicated to be such. From this year, they will be reviewed in the same way that main conference papers are reviewed, but they will be reviewed as early career researchers. So all consideration will be given to people, the fact that they are at the beginning of their careers, they're either postgraduates or early career researchers. But they might be, where they appear in sessions with more experienced researcher papers, then they will be indicated to be early careers. Or there might be a whole session that is early career researcher papers, but it will be indicated to be such. But they will all be part of the main conference. Individual papers, yes, of course we will still have individual papers. Yes, they will be reviewed by SIGs. But there will be the opportunity for SIGs to say, this doesn't really quite fit with us, please could somebody else have a look at it. There will be the opportunity for you to say, my paper doesn't fit with any of the SIGs that we have, all 30, unusual, but it does happen. People don't want to be a part of the SIG. We will ask you this year to contact Marie and tell her and give us some keywords, and we will find reviewers to do that. If we can't group the papers as a sort of quasi symposium to get papers together that relate to each other and would make a session, then we will be offering, this year, we will be offering round table sessions where people can sit down with their paper for a period of time and discuss it more intimately with whoever comes along. And then finally, I would like to say we're offering a category this year called Innovation Session. We often have people saying to us, I'd like to do something a bit different. Some people think, the individual paper presentation a bit passé. We're in the digital age. We want to use more social media or digital means of communication. There will be a category called Innovation. We would ask you to tell us why, to put in an abstract for the content, but also to tell us why your form of presentation is innovatory, and why you think it's relevant and a way of presenting that perhaps hasn't been tried before. There will be some parameters because of the space we have at Queen's, but we will try to be as accommodating as we can for however innovative your sessions are. I've talked to people over the last few days about installations, about drama presentations, about presenting your research findings as a dance or a song. We're also thinking of things like open space sessions where people can sit down and say, I'd like to talk about X, and people will join them. So please take a risk. Let's try and move BERA conference very clearly into the 21st century, into the digital age, into whatever age we think is appropriate for as a way of presenting to the world the quality of educational research that we know is conducted by our members. Thank you. See you in Belfast.
Thank you, Felicity. And just before you scurry off to your next paper session, may I add a vote of thanks on your behalf to Felicity and the members of the conference committee, to all of the office team, the BERA office team, and finally to the technical support staff who've been very helpful throughout the conference and no doubt will continue to be so until we finish later today. So join with me, please, in saying thank you very much indeed.